Elisa Lam was last seen on January 31st, 2013 in the lobby of a hotel in downtown Los Angeles. She was vacationing through the West Coast, documenting her trip on her blog and checking in with her parents every day. On January 31st, those calls stopped. Lam had vanished. Soon the police were involved and her parents arrived to help with the search. They had nothing. That February, LAPD released elevator surveillance footage of Lam before her disappearance. The footage shows Lam behaving strangely in the elevator, appearing to talk with invisible people, peering around the corner of the door, crouching in the corner, and opening and closing the door. But what exactly is going on in the video raises more questions than answers. Theories range from psychotic episodes to demonic possession to unknown assailants just out of the camera's view. Around that time, hotel guests started reporting weird things happening with the hotel's water supply, as CNN reports. "The shower was awful," said Sabrina Bowe, who spent 8 days there during the investigation. "When you turn the tap on, the water was coming black first for 2 seconds, and then it would go back to normal. The tap water tasted horrible," Bowe said. "It had a funny, sweety, disgusting taste. It's a very strange taste, I can barely describe it. But for a week they never complained. We never thought anything of it," she said. "We thought it was just the way it was here." On the morning of February 19th, a hotel employee climbed to the roof and used a ladder to investigate the hotel's water storage tanks. That's where the authorities found the decomposing, naked body of Lam, whose personal items were found nearby. After an autopsy, her death was labeled accidental. NBC Los Angeles reported at the time about the strange circumstances in the hotel's past. The tank has a metal latch that can be opened, but authorities said access to the roof is secured with an alarm and a lock. The single-room occupancy hotel has an unusual history. Night stalker Richard Ramirez, who was found guilty of 14 slayings in the 1980s, lived on the 14th floor for several months in 1985. An international serial killer, Jack Unterweger, is suspected of murdering 3 prostitutes during the time that he lived there in 1991. He killed himself in jail in 1994. In 1962, a female occupant jumped out of the hotel's window, killing herself and the pedestrian on whom she landed. Last year, the Indianapolis Star published a lengthy report on a family terrorized by 3 children allegedly possessed by demons. The account of Latoya Mo and her family telling disturbing stories of children climbing up walls, getting thrown across rooms, and children threatening doctors in deep, unnatural voices. It would seem like something straight out of a movie, a work of fantasy. Except all of these accounts were more or less corroborated with nearly 800 pages of official records obtained by the Indianapolis Star and recounted in more than a dozen interviews with the police, DCS personnel, psychologists, family members, and a Catholic priest. One of the more chilling sections of the report includes a segment about the possessed 9-year-old. According to the Washington's original DCS report, an account corroborated by Walker, the nurse, the 9-year-old had a weird grin and walked backwards up the wall to the ceiling. He then flipped over Campbell, landing on his feet. He never let go of his grandmother's hand. Another segment of the piece reads, "The 12-year-old would later tell mental health professionals that she sometimes felt as if she were being choked and held down so she couldn't speak or move. She said she heard a voice say that she'd never see her family again and that she wouldn't live another 20 minutes. In September of 2014, a Utah teen returned home to find his parents and his 3 siblings dead. In a notebook, a to-do list had been scribbled on the pages. The list looked as if the parents were ready to go on vacation. Items such as feed the pets and find someone to watch the house were written, the Salt Lake Tribune reported. It appeared to be a murder-suicide, but there was no suicide note, no prior indicator that they wanted to do this, no explanation. Police could not figure out why 2 parents would kill themselves and 3 of their 4 children. For a year now, no one knew exactly what happened to the family or what would drive the parents to do something so unthinkable. In January, the police realized more chilling details in the case. According to accounts from family members and an investigation by police, the parents were driven by a belief that the apocalypse was coming and an obsession with a convicted killer. As the Washington Post reported, friends and family told police that the parents were worried about the evil in the world and wanted to escape a pending apocalypse, but most assumed that they just wanted to move somewhere off the grid. Investigators also found letters written by Chrissy Strack to one of the state's most infamous convicted killers, Dan Lafferty, who was convicted of the 1984 fatal stabbing of his sister-in-law and her one-year-old daughter. According to trial testimony, he killed the victims at the order of his brother, Ron Lafferty, who claimed to have had a revelation from God. The story became a book called Under the Banner of Heaven. Police said Chrissy Strack became friends with Dan Lafferty and that she and her husband would visit him in prison. In 2007, ABC News documented a series of cell phone calls to families with terrifyingly specific death threats. The unidentified caller knew exactly what the families were doing and what they were wearing. The families say the calls come in at all hours of the night, threatening to kill their children, their pets, and grandparents. Voicemails arrive, playing recordings of their private conversations, including one with the local police detective. The caller knows, the family said, what they were wearing and what they were doing, and after months of investigating, police seemed powerless to stop them. This went on with the Kai Kennel family for months, who reported a caller with a scratchy voice threatening to slit their throats. Police tried to find the culprit. The calls were traced back to the Kai Kendalls' own phones, even when they were turned off. It got worse. The Kai Kendalls and 2 other Faircrest families told ABC News that they believe the callers are using their own cell phones to spy on them. They say the hackers know their every move, where they are, what they're doing, and what they're wearing. The callers have recorded private conversations, the families and police said, including a meeting with a local detective. After moving into their $1.3 million dream home, a New Jersey family started receiving creepy death threats from someone who identified themselves as the Watcher, as CPS News reported earlier this year. Since moving in, the owners said that they have received numerous letters from the mysterious person. The Watcher claimed the home has been subject of my family for decades, and I have been put in charge of watching and waiting for its second coming, Kasher reported. The new owners have several children, and other letters asked, have they found out what's in the walls yet? And I'm pleased to know your names now, and the names of the young blood you have brought me. The family was forced to flee from their home and later filed a lawsuit against the previous owners.